dreams about. Not because he wants revenge or because he wants to hurt her, but because deep down he wants the truth to finally reveal itself. The moment when she tries to move on, when she tells herself she's done with you, when she forces her heart to choose someone else, but still, for a reason she can't understand and will never admit out loud, your energy keeps haunting her. This isn't fantasy. This isn't ego. This is female psychology. And it's one of the most misunderstood dynamics in modern relationships. People think the man who loses the woman is the man who loved more. But the brutal truth is different. A woman doesn't get haunted by the man who chased her, begged her, or tried to convince her to stay. She gets haunted by the man whose energy touched her in a way she wasn't ready for, didn't expect, and couldn't control. Women move on quickly from attention. They do not move on quickly from presence. And presence is not the words you say or the messages you send. Presence is a vibration. The way you walked into her life with purpose, the way you held yourself during silence, the way you didn't collapse when she pulled away. It's the way you stayed grounded when her emotions were chaotic. It's the way you made her feel something she didn't feel with anyone else. Stability mixed with unpredictability. That combination is lethal because a woman can replace attention. She can replace touch. She can replace your role in her routine, but she cannot replace the feeling of being around a man who is deeply connected to himself. So when she tries to move on, that's the part she can't recreate. She can go on dates. She can post stories. She can pretend she's in love with her new distraction. But inside, she compares every detail silently, automatically, uncontrollably. The way he talks, the way he reacts, the way he looks at her, the way he holds silence, the way he handles conflict. And every comparison leads her back to you. Not because you are perfect, but because you were authentic. And authenticity is the one thing modern men don't understand they're competing with. The more you become aligned with your purpose, your peace, your discipline, your emotional distance, the more unforgettable you become. That's why even when she moves on, she never really moves past you. Because your energy wasn't loud, it was deep. Because your value wasn't visible, it was felt. Because your presence didn't chase, it anchored. And that kind of man leaves a mark that time cannot erase. This video is not about reuniting with her. It's about understanding why your energy continues to echo in her mind, even when she tries her hardest to forget you. Before we start, a quick reminder. The real transformation doesn't happen on YouTube. It happens inside the community. If these videos have opened your eyes, what's inside will rebuild your mindset completely. It's not just a course, it's a brotherhood. A private space where men master attraction, emotional control, and the psychology of power. You don't join for a month, you join for life. Every future course, book, and lesson is yours forever. No subscriptions, no limits, just one decision that changes your direction. If you're serious about growth, discipline, and purpose, click the link below. Join the community, enroll once, grow forever. Let's dive in. Section number 1, why her mind keeps returning to you. When a woman walks away, the world assumes she's done forever, that her decision is final, that her silence means she has emotionally detached. But what most men never see is the psychological loop that begins the moment she tries to replace a man whose presence once made her feel grounded, challenged, understood, and emotionally activated in ways she didn't know how to process. A woman may convince herself she can move on quickly, but her subconscious does not move at the speed of her decisions. It moves at the speed of emotional imprinting. And that imprinting is exactly why your energy continues echoing inside her long after the relationship ends. The mind remembers emotions before it remembers logic. and a woman's emotional memory is far sharper than she ever lets on. When she thinks of you, she doesn't recall words or moments in a linear timeline. She recalls sensations. The calmness she felt when she lay next to you. The certainty she felt when she looked into your eyes. The quiet intensity in your voice when you spoke about your goals. The unspoken safety in your presence when life felt overwhelming. These sensations become anchored in her nervous system. And even if she tries to suppress them mentally, they rise back to the surface whenever life forces her into moments of vulnerability, pressure, comparison, or emotional fatigue. She may meet someone new, she may let another man take her out. She may even try to upgrade, telling herself, "You are part of an older chapter that no longer belongs in her life." But every new interaction becomes a mirror. Instead of seeing the new man for who he is, she sees him through the emotional blueprint you left behind. When he reacts too quickly, she remembers how you stayed composed. When he tries too hard to impress her, she remembers how you impressed her by simply being grounded in your own life. When he becomes insecure over small things, she remembers how your confidence wasn't situational, but internal, steady, and unshaken. Without knowing it, she compares him to the version of herself she became around you, and realizes she cannot recreate that version with someone else. Women do not miss the man. They miss the quality of woman they became around him. And if you brought out a version of her that made her feel more feminine, more desired, more safe, more alive, more challenged, or more deeply connected, that version begins to fade when she tries to replace you with someone whose presence lacks the weight she once felt with you. This is why she keeps circling back in her mind. It's not that she wants to admit she still feels something. It's that she doesn't know how to fill the emotional gap you created. The gap between who she was with you and who she is without you. And this gap grows bigger when she realizes that most men cannot carry the emotional gravity you carried naturally. The gravity of a man who is silently disciplined, mentally unbothered, emotionally controlled, and connected to a purpose greater than the validation of any relationship. Her attempts to move on don't erase you, they highlight you. Every new experience becomes another reminder that what she had wasn't ordinary, and what she lost wasn't easy to replace. This is how your energy begins to haunt her, not as a ghost of the past, but as a standard she didn't know she would miss until it was gone. Section number 2, the emotional echo. Why her heart reacts before her mind. Long before a woman consciously realizes she still feels something for you, her emotions start responding to your absence in ways she cannot fully explain. And this emotional echo is the real reason she finds herself haunted by your energy, even when she claims she has moved on. People often assume women are more emotionally intelligent simply because they express their feelings more openly. But in reality, women are often the last ones to realize when something is affecting them deeply, especially when that feeling is connected to a man who represented stability, mystery, masculine calmness, or emotional intensity in their life. She may think she closed the door, but emotions don't follow the rules of certainty. They follow the rules of attachment, chemistry, and resonance. When you stepped back, whether intentionally or because the relationship reached a breaking point, you created a space that her mind initially interpreted as freedom, but her heart soon began interpreting as loss. At first, she tries to fill that emotional void with noise. Social media, attention from others, new dates, friends telling her she made the right decision, and even her own attempts to distract herself with routines that make her feel in control. But what she can't erase is the subconscious reaction her body has when something reminds her of you. A scent, a song, a phrase, a memory of how you used to handle pressure, or even a moment of silence during which she realizes how different life feels without the emotional grounding you once provided. Women react to emotional absence far more intensely than they react to emotional conflict. Conflict stimulates them. Absence destabilizes them because conflict gives them something to push against, something to respond to, something to feel in the moment. But absence leaves them alone with their own thoughts, and it forces them to face emotions they were trying to outrun. That is when the emotional echo begins. She doesn't choose to think of you. She simply feels you without wanting to, without planning to, in the quiet moments where her mind finally has no distractions left. This echo becomes stronger when she compares how she feels with her new options versus how she felt with you. If the new man lacks emotional depth, she feels bored. If he is too available, she feels smothered. If he tries to impress her, she feels nothing. If he reacts emotionally, she feels disappointed. Her reactions to him are not just about him. They're reflections of how deeply you once activated her feminine energy, because the emotional baseline you created is still there, and her heart is measuring every new experience against that silent standard. This is why she can appear cold, detached, or stubborn on the surface while still being emotionally pulled back toward you internally. Her heart remembers the emotional certainty she felt around you before her mind admits it. And this creates an internal conflict. She struggles to hide. She might tell others she's fine. She might even convince herself she's over it. But emotional echoes don't disappear. They amplify through contrast and realization. The truth is simple. The more she tries to outrun the emotional residue you left behind, the louder that residue becomes. Her heart reacts long before her mind acknowledges it. And that is why your energy continues following her into new relationships, new situations, and new chapters of her life. Not because you're still present, but because the version of herself she became around you still lives inside her. Section number 3. Why she can't replace the way you made her feel. One of the most misunderstood truths in female psychology is the idea that women can simply move on by choosing someone new, as if emotional connection is something interchangeable, repeatable, or guaranteed. But a woman doesn't get attached to a man because he showed up at the right time. She gets attached because he awakened a version of herself she didn't know existed. And that version becomes nearly impossible to recreate with another man. This is why she struggles silently, even when it looks like she's doing fine, because replacing a person is easy, but replacing a feeling is nearly impossible. What she misses most is not the conversations or the moments you shared. It's the emotional state you triggered within her. She misses the way she felt safe around you. Not because you promised safety, but because you carried it effortlessly in the way you moved, the way you spoke, the way you refused to break even when life threw fire at you. She misses the way you made her feel feminine without asking her to be anything other than herself. She misses the way your emotional stillness balanced her emotional storms. The way you handled conflict with calm intelligence instead of panic, and the way your silence sometimes said more than other men's loud declarations of love. She tries to recreate this dynamic with someone new, but most men are either emotionally too soft or emotionally too aggressive. They cling too quickly or disconnect too fast. They either suffocate her with validation or disappear with immaturity. They don't know how to occupy the middle ground, the space where a man is present but self-contained, attentive but not needy, confident without arrogance, and grounded without being cold. That middle ground is what makes a man unforgettable. And that is precisely the energy she experienced with you. Modern men chase too much. They reveal too much. They collapse too much. They exaggerate confidence instead of embodying it. Women are hyper-aware of emotional posture. And when a man's internal state is unstable, She feels it instantly. But with you, she felt an energy that didn't shake, didn't break, didn't crumble under pressure. You were a calm horizon in a world full of emotional chaos. And that kind of presence becomes a psychological anchor she will always return to when she needs emotional clarity. And here's the part she'll never admit to anyone, not even to herself. When she left, she expected to find a better version of the emotional experience you gave her. Not a better man necessarily, but a better feeling, a stronger spark, a deeper resonance. She wanted someone who could replace the emotional world she lived in when she was with you. But the more she searched, the more she realized she didn't want a different world. She wanted the same world with fewer imperfections, fewer mistakes, fewer misunderstandings. She learns too late that feelings cannot be duplicated, only triggered. And the triggers she experienced with you are not easy to reproduce. This realization creates an emotional paradox she struggles to escape. She doesn't want to want you, but she cannot stop missing the way you made her feel. She doesn't want to go back, but she also doesn't want to move forward without the emotional depth she had with you. She tries to convince herself that time will fix it, but time only magnifies the contrast between what she feels now and what she once felt in your presence. This is why your energy continues haunting her. Not because she wants the past, but because she can't replace the emotional gravity you brought into her life. Section number 4. The silence that speaks louder than contact. Silence is often misunderstood as a passive act, a withdrawal, or a lack of interest. But in the mind of a woman who once felt deeply connected to a man, silence becomes a mirror, a psychological amplifier that forces her to confront emotions she would rather avoid. Most men think silence pushes a woman away, but in reality, silence pulls her inward into the very places where she keeps her unprocessed feelings, unanswered questions, and unresolved memories. And it is inside those quiet spaces that your energy becomes louder than anything you ever said. When you stopped chasing, when you stopped explaining yourself, when you stopped trying to prove your worth, you unintentionally gave her something she didn't expect. The space to feel the consequences of her decisions. At first, she interprets your silence as ego, as bitterness, or as a phase. She tells herself, you will eventually reach out again, that you will break your own discipline, that you will fall back into the familiar pattern where she holds the emotional upper hand. But as time passes, she begins to realize something far more unsettling. Your silence is not an emotional reaction, but an emotional evolution. Women are highly intuitive and they can feel the difference between a man who is silent to manipulate and a man who is silent because he has reclaimed his self-control. Your silence carries weight because it is not empty. It is filled with the self-respect she once admired, the discipline she once underestimated, and the emotional independence she never believed you would develop. This is the kind of silence that changes the dynamic because it forces her to reconsider everything she thought she knew about you. As the days pass, she begins experiencing something unexpected, a growing anxiety rooted not in anger, but in uncertainty. She starts questioning herself in ways she never did before. Why hasn't he reached out? Did he really move on? Was I not as important as I believed? Did he finally see my flaws? Did he realize he deserved better? These questions become emotional triggers, and each one expands the mental space you occupy in her mind. The more she asks, the more she feels, and the more she feels, the more she becomes haunted by your absence. Silence creates contrast, and contrast creates clarity. The new men she interacts with speak too much, try too hard, and reveal insecurities she never noticed before. Their words feel shallow because she is comparing them to your silence. Your silence had depth. Your silence had restraint. Your silence had emotional maturity. She remembers the tone of your voice when you were calm. She remembers how your presence filled a room without needing loudness. She remembers how your silence wasn't avoidance, but selective focus. And when she experiences a man who lacks this kind of emotional structure, she realizes how rare your energy truly was. Your silence becomes a psychological test. She didn't know she would fail. Instead of proving she's over you, it proves how deeply she was affected by you. Instead of freeing her, it binds her to the very emotion she thought she could escape. This is the moment where your absence becomes more powerful than your presence ever was, because your silence doesn't just stay quiet. It echoes until she understands the message. You are no longer chasing, no longer waiting, and no longer dependent on her validation. And that realization is the beginning of her emotional unraveling, and the very reason your energy continues to haunt her long after she tried to move on. Section number 5. The moment she realizes she lost the version of you she took for granted. There is a specific moment in every woman's emotional journey when the truth finally breaks through her denial, and it never arrives during the dramatic arguments, the emotional goodbyes, or the first weeks after separation. That moment appears quietly, usually when she least expects it, when life pauses just long enough for her to feel the weight of everything she tried to outrun. And in that silent pause, she realizes something far more painful than losing the relationship. She lost the version of you who once loved her without hesitation, trusted her without fear, and offered her access to your world without restrictions. This realization does not come from regret over the past. It comes from seeing the man you have become in the present. Because while she was trying to move on, something else was happening simultaneously. You were evolving. You weren't sitting in emotional darkness, waiting for her to return. You weren't begging for closure or replaying the past in your mind every night. Instead, you shifted your focus inward. You rebuilt your habits, your discipline, your direction, and your spirit. You reclaimed your power in silence. You stopped trying to be understood and started learning to understand yourself. You began living in a way that reflected the man you always had the potential to be, the man she didn't appreciate until he was gone. This transformation is what hits her the hardest. It's not simply that she misses you. It's that she misses who she used to be around you, and she knows she no longer has access to that emotional world. When she looks at you now through your silence, your stability, your detachment, your progress, she sees a man she once knew but no longer recognizes. And that unfamiliarity terrifies her because it means she cannot predict you. She cannot control the dynamic anymore. And she cannot return to the comfort of the emotional position she once held. Women never panic when they lose the man they took for granted. They panic when they lose the version of that man who loved them enough to stay. The moment she realizes she no longer has access to your softness, your loyalty, your consistency, your emotional availability, or your old willingness to fight for her, something inside her collapses. She begins questioning her choices, not out of jealousy or insecurity, but out of a deep psychological recognition that she underestimated your value at the exact moment you were discovering it yourself. And here is the most powerful part. The new man in her life, if there is one, becomes a living reminder of what she lost. Not because he is worse than you, not because he treats her badly, but because he is not the man you became. He does not carry himself with your calm masculinity. He does not hold his emotions with your self-control. He does not walk through life with your quiet confidence. She sees the difference, feels the difference, and she knows she contributed to the very growth she can no longer experience firsthand. That creates a bittersweet emotional paradox she cannot escape. She helped shape you into the man she always wanted, but now that man is no longer hers to keep. This is why your energy haunts her. Not because you are unforgettable in the romantic sense, but because you transformed into the version of yourself she hoped you would become. And you reached that version only after she left. She can move on from the relationship, but she cannot move on from the realization that she was never meant to meet this upgraded version of you again. In the end, when all the noise fades, when her distractions collapse, when her routines stop giving her the emotional numbness she relied on, she is forced to confront the truth she spent months avoiding. The haunting she feels is not about you as a person, but about the emotional world she once entered and wasn't prepared to handle. You became a lesson she wasn't ready to learn, a mirror she wasn't ready to look into, and an experience she wasn't mature enough to value. And that combination creates a psychological imprint that time, distance, and even new relationships cannot erase. She tried to move on because the connection scared her. You represented a kind of emotional intensity that demanded honesty, depth, and vulnerability. And not every woman is ready for that level of connection. She thought distance would save her, but all it did was reveal the difference between what she wanted and what she was prepared for. The haunting she feels now is the emotional debt of everything she didn't feel when she should have, everything she didn't appreciate when she had the chance, and everything she didn't understand until it was too late. While she was trying to outrun the memory of you, you were growing into a man she never imagined you could become. Your silence wasn't a punishment. Your distance wasn't manipulation. Your detachment wasn't coldness. It was evolution. It was the natural transformation of a man who finally understood that love is not about losing yourself for someone who doesn't know how to hold what you offer. You rose, you improved, you healed, you turned the pain into discipline, the confusion into clarity, and the loss into a deeper sense of masculine strength. And it is this transformation that intensifies her emotional haunting, because the version of you she lost is not the version of you that exists today. The truth is that she isn't haunted by what you were. She is haunted by what you became because of what happened. She sees a man who didn't shatter when she walked away, a man who didn't chase, a man who didn't collapse, a man who rebuilt himself with more focus, more purpose, and more inner peace than before. That image challenges everything she believed about relationships, about men, about herself. It forces her to acknowledge that she misjudged you, underestimated you, and walked away from something that was rare, stabilizing, and emotionally enriching in ways she didn't understand until she felt its absence. And now, every attempt to move forward is shadowed by one realization. She can build a new life, but she cannot erase the emotional standard you set. She can meet new men, but she cannot recreate the depth she once felt. She can tell herself she's healed, but she cannot silence the emotional echo of the connection she walked away from. The haunting is not your fault. It is the consequence of emotional truth. It is her heart reminding her that she let go of a man whose energy was meant to elevate her, not entertain her. And while she may never admit it publicly, privately she knows that losing you wasn't just an event. It was a turning point that reshaped her entire understanding of what real connection feels like. In the quiet moments when the world can't see her, she knows the truth. You didn't haunt her. Her own choices did. Remember, knowledge means nothing without action. If you're ready to rise above emotion and lead with purpose, join the community today at the link below. Enroll once, grow forever.